Okay, so I've got a real simple question for you. If Jesus were to return right now, I'm talking about like he came back right this second, would you be more embarrassed or ashamed of what you had to offer him, or would you truly be ready for his return? In this video, I'm gonna share with you how you can be ready for Jesus' return. That's coming up today on The Beat. Hey, my friend, welcome back to The Beat. My name is Alan Parr. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time here, it's a pleasure. If you want a free ebook, click the link in the description box below. If you enjoy this video, consider subscribing. Hit that little bell notification so you won't miss a beat. Okay, so it is Friday and we're continuing on in our series through some of the parables of Jesus Christ. And today we find ourselves in Matthew chapter 25. And this is a series of parables talking about the importance of getting ready or being prepared for Jesus' return. So we're gonna walk this parable through and jump right in, starting in verse 14. It says here, "For it is just like a man about to go on a journey." So right away, we have to stop and say, what is he talking about here? So if you go back to Matthew chapter 25, verse 1, it says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like." So this lets us know that what Jesus is getting ready to share with us in this parable is all about the kingdom of heaven. So let's keep going. It says here, "He called his own servants and entrusted his possessions to them." So as I've said several times in this series, it is important for us to be able to determine who these characters are and who they represent. So very clearly in this parable, the man is referring to Jesus Christ himself. And it says that this man went on a journey. And so this journey refers to the period of time between Jesus' ascension and when Jesus returns to gather his church and take his church to himself. Now, the servants in this story represent us, and this lets us know that that's exactly what we should be all about in our lives. Our lives should be about serving God and serving others. But it also says it entrusted his possessions to them, which lets us know that anything and everything that we have right now doesn't belong to us, but ultimately it is just on loan from God to us, and he is entrusting these things to us. Now let's keep going. It says here, "To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent." So this lets us know right here that not everybody is going to receive the same level of giftedness in the body of Christ. Some people are going to be more gifted than other people, but everybody is going to get something. Not everybody is going to have the same level of responsibility that is on their shoulders, but everybody is going to have some level of responsibility. And we need to be careful about coveting the gifts and talents that other people have, because the Bible is very clear that to whom much is given, much is required. Continuing on, it says here, "Depending on each one's ability." So this lets us know that God knows his servants so intimately that he's not going to give you more than what you're able to handle. He gives us just enough so that whenever we stand before him, we cannot make any excuses and say, "God, you gave me like 10 gifts. I couldn't be faithful with all of those things." God knows what each one of us is able to handle comfortably. And so he gives us certain gifts, talents, abilities, and responsibilities according to our own ability. Then it says, "Then he went on a journey." We talked about that already. And then it says, "Immediately the man who had received 5 talents went, put them to work, and earned 5 more. In the same way, the man with 2 earned 2 more. So this lets us know that these servants understood that their master expected faithfulness and fruitfulness. And that is the same thing that God expects from us. He expects us to be faithful with what he has given us. And ultimately, if we're faithful, our faithfulness will lead to our fruitfulness. But you always have one dude that's gonna mess up everything. Check it out. It says here, "But the man who received 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now, this describes a whole lot of us as Christians. We're hiding our gifts. We're hiding our talents. We have all of these things in us that God has gifted us to do, but we're not using them. More on that later. So notice it says here, after a long time. So this lets us know that the master gave these servants plenty of time so that they could invest his money and make more from it. It says here, those servants came and settled accounts with them. Once again, this lets us know that whether you are Christian or non-Christian, all of us are going to stand before God and give an account for how faithful we were with the things that God has given us. Basically, to paraphrase the rest of it, the guy with 5 talents said, hey man, here is the 5 that you gave me, and I also produced 5 more. And so the master says, hey, well done, good and faithful servant. You can come and enjoy in my happiness. And then the guy with 2 talents came and said, you know what? You gave me 2. I earned 2 more for you. And the master said the same thing to the 2-talent servant as he did to the 5-talent servant, which once again lets us know that God is looking more for faithfulness rather than fruitfulness. But to the guy that did not do anything with his talent, he called him a wicked and lazy servant. And he said, take that 1 talent that you have and give it to someone else. And he says, I'm going to throw you out so that you'll be on the outside where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, what in the world does this mean for us? Well, first off, we see that whenever we stand before God, there is going to be no such thing as an excuse. We won't be able to say, my career was too demanding, I didn't have enough time, I wasn't as gifted as everyone else, I never knew my gift, God, you never told me what my purpose was, I didn't know what my calling was, and so therefore I have the excuse and I'm exempt from doing anything that you've called me to do. There will not be an excuse that is sufficient enough to give God in the day of judgment. So how can we get ready for Jesus' return? Well, this is a very, very simple message. Number 1, what are you doing with your time? So if I ask you right now, how much time are you truly giving to the kingdom? And be honest about it in comparison to all these other things, hobbies, career, relationships, travel, leisure, and all of these different things, educational pursuits, trying to get promotions on your job, all of this stuff. Whenever you look at how much time you're putting towards all of these things that are important, but at the end of the day are not going to give us any sort of reward in heaven, if you will, as compared to the time that you're putting in kingdom advancing things like discipleship, missions, evangelism, and serving God, how do the two compare? The second thing that I want to ask you is not only are you using your time wisely, but are you using your talents wisely? In other words, God, just like in the story, has given all of us certain gifts, certain talents, certain abilities. He's given us all a spiritual gift according to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. But unfortunately, many of us are using all of our gifts and talents for the world. Let's say you have a gift to sing. Are you using that in the kingdom? Are you singing at church? Are you leading worship? Are you in the choir? Or are you singing to try to make yourself famous? Let's say you have a gift to dance. Are you simply dancing to get attention, or are you dancing maybe in a liturgical dance in your church? Let's say you have a gift to act. Are you using that gift for the world, or are you going to get involved in a drama team ministry at your church? Let's say you have a gift to teach, or you have a gift of being an accountant or whatnot. Anything that you say that you could use for the world, I could make an argument that the church, the body of Christ, God's kingdom needs your gift even more. And then finally, how are you managing your treasure? You may say, brother, I don't have any treasures. I'm barely trying to get by. Well, essentially what God is looking for is not equal giving, but equal sacrifice. It's not about how much you have, it's about how much you're willing to sacrifice. So when you honestly look at your finances and you compare how much money you're spending on getting your hair done, spend on your cars, your clothes, going out, leisure, once again, travel, and all these different things that it's so easy for you to just drop that money and you don't even think about it. You just naturally do it. It could be subscriptions to certain things. It could be television. It could be Netflix. It could be any of these things, right? But then it's so difficult for us to give that same amount of money or even just a fraction of that money to kingdom advancing purposes. And so the question becomes, how are you managing the treasures that God has given you? So I'm gonna finish this video the same way I started it. If Jesus were to return right now, would you be more ashamed and more embarrassed about what you had to offer him? Or would you be able to point to the fruit that you have produced and say, God, you know what? I'm proud of this. These people's lives are changed as a result of my investment in them. Or this church is a different place because of my service to this church. Or I went on a missions trip and these people know you because I've shared my faith with them. I've discipled these people. What fruit would you point to right this moment that you could be proud to present to God on the day of judgment? My friend, if nothing comes to mind right now, the good news is that if you have breath in your body, you still have an opportunity to make an impact on the kingdom. The important thing is to start now. If you found this video helpful in any way, feel free to share it with a friend. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would love it if you would subscribe. Check out some of the other videos on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time on The Beat.